Namaste Vidya, myself JV Neha Sani from Physiotherapy and Diagnostics. Here I am going to tell you about the anatomy of the cerebrum. First, we come to the introduction. The cerebrum is the largest part of the brain with two hemispheres. The two cerebral hemispheres are linked together by chemical fibers of corpus callosum. Each cerebral hemisphere contains externally high convoluted cortex of grey matter and internal mass of white matter or medulla. Each cerebral hemisphere contains lateral ventricle continuous with the third ventricle through interventricular foramen. The cerebral hemisphere contains motor and sensory areas and limbic system. So here we can see the midline longitudinal fissure between the two cerebral hemispheres. So if we take a coronal section, then we can see the outer grey matter and the inner white matter. The grey matter contains the nerve cell bodies and the blood vessels, while the white matter contains the nerve fibers and blood vessels are less in this area. So the surfaces of the brain, that is the cerebral hemisphere, they are the superolateral surface, medial surface and the inferior surface. Inferior surface has further two surfaces, that is orbital and tentorial. Superolateral surface follows the concavity of the cranial vault, while the medial surface is towards the midline. It is flat, vertical and separated from its fellow by the great longitudinal fissure and the falx cerebri. The inferior surface or the basal surface is irregular and is divided into orbital and tentorial surface. So here we can see the superolateral surface and the medial surface. On the medial surface we have corpus callosum. It is clearly demarcated over here that this is the corpus callosum. This is the inferior surface where we can see the two surfaces, that is the orbital and the tentorial surface. This is the orbital surface on the anterior side and this is the tentorial surface on the posterior side. Now the borders of the cerebral hemisphere. We have superomedial border, then the inferior border. So these are the borders of the cerebral hemisphere. Then the poles of the brain. We have frontal pole, which is on the anterior side, then temporal pole on the anterior inferior side, and we have the occipital pole on the posterior side. Then the lobes. So lobes are 4 in number according to the bones under which they are present. For example, we have frontal bone, parietal bone. So below the parietal bone we have the frontal lobe. Below the parietal lobe we have the parietal lobe, and below the frontal bone we have the frontal lobe. Below the occipital bone we have the occipital lobe, and below the temporal bone we have the temporal bone. Then occasionally there is another fifth lobe is also present, which is known as insula. It is also known as fifth lobe. So this is the hidden cortex or hidden part. This is the insula which we have exposed. Now phylogenetical divisions of the cerebral hemisphere includes the grey matter of the cerebral hemisphere, that is the cerebral cortex, is divided into three parts. Phylogenetically there are three divisions. One is the neocortex or isocortex. It is the decent developed cerebral hemisphere, the brain of the human being. Proisocortex, it is the transitional cortex between the isocortex and the allocortex. It includes the cingulate gyrus and the parahippocampal gyrus. Then the allocortex. Allo means other in Latin word. Cortex means the peripheral part. So archicortex and the paleocortex, these are the two parts of the allocortex. Archicortex is also known as hippocampal formation and it is deriving from a Greek word archi. Archi means beginning. Then the paleocortex, which forms the Greek word paleos. Paleos means old. So the frontal bone, that is the frontal lobe, is responsible for the movement, behavior, association and learning, while the parietal lobe is related with the association. Then the occipital lobe is associated with vision and association power. Then the temporal lobe is association with audition, equilibrium and association. Now the different gyri and the sulci which are present in the cerebral hemisphere are: each cerebral hemisphere shows a complex pattern of convolutions. These convolutions are known as gyri, and the furrows are the sulci. The convoluted structure increases the cortical volume to 3 times what it would be if the surface is smooth. There is less surface area. So the surface area of the cerebral hemisphere in a human being is 2200 centimeter square. The important sulci in the gyri in the cerebral hemisphere of the human being is: on the superolateral surface we have the lateral sulcus. It is a deep cleft on the lateral and the inferior surface. It has a stem which divides into the 3 rami, the anterior, ascending and the posterior rami. So in this diagram we can see this is the lateral sulcus. Then the parts of the lateral sulcus are the stem, the anterior horizontal, anterior ascending and the posterior ramus. Then the sylvian sulcus. On the inferior surface there is a sylvian sulcus. Then the central sulcus. In this image we can see this is the central sulcus. Then lateral sulcus is there. Here we can see the lateral sulcus in the enlarged image. This is the lateral sulcus and this is the central sulcus. On the frontal lobe we have, this is the frontal, superior and the inferior sulcus. So the central sulcus is the boundary between the frontal and the parietal lobes. It starts at the superomedial border, a little behind the midpoint between the frontal and the occipital poles. It runs downwards forwards for about 8 to 10 cm to end little above the posterior ramus of the lateral sulcus. It demarcates the motor and the sensory area of the cortex. Means the area in front of the central sulcus is motor and the area behind the central sulcus is sensory in nature. Other sulci are superior frontal, inferior frontal that we have discussed in previous slide, precentral sulcus and postcentral sulcus. Precentral means in front of the central sulcus. Postcentral means behind the central sulcus. So here we can see the pre and the post central sulcus. This is the central sulcus, this is pre and this is post central sulcus. Here again we can see the pre and the post central sulcus and the central sulcus, and the area in front of the central sulcus is motor in function. This is motor, and the area behind the central sulcus, this is sensory in function. Now on the medial surface we can see the corpus callosum. There are 4 parts of the corpus callosum: the rostrum, genu, trunk and the splenium. So this is the rostrum, this bend is the genu, this is body and this is splenium, that is the tail. So here we can see the parts of the corpus callosum again. Then the sulci on the medial surface, we have cingulate sulcus which divides the anterior part into outer and inner zone, the parieto-occipital sulcus which marks the boundary between the parietal and the occipital lobes, then the calcarine sulcus. The visual cortex lies above and below the calcarine sulcus. So the calcarine sulcus lodges the visual cortex. Then callosal sulcus, it lies above the corpus callosum, that is why it is named as callosal sulcus. Other sulci are anterior parolfactory and posterior parolfactory sulcus. So on the medial surface we can easily see the different sulcus which you had discussed in the previous slide: the calcarean sulcus, cingulate sulcus, the parieto-occipital sulcus. So these are the important sulci on the medial surface. Then collateral sulcus on the temporal lobe. So these are again the different sulci in the gyri. These are important. Then gyri on the medial surface are cingulate gyrus. It lies between the corpus callosum and the cingulate sulcus. Paracentral lobule, it is U-shaped gyrus. on the medial surface. Then medial frontal gyrus, it is the area between the cingulate gyrus and the superomedial border. Cuneus, area between the parieto-occipital sulcus and the calcarine sulcus, it is lying on the posterior side. Then parolfactory gyrus, it is the area between the anterior and the posterior parolfactory sulcus. So here we can see the paracentral lobule. It is an important area. It is the area which controls the micturition and defecation of the human body, and the Brodmann's number for this area is area number 4 and 312. So paracentral lobule, it lies on the medial frontal lobe. It receives the sense of distension of bladder and the rectum, and it innervates the contralateral lower limb. Then on the inferior surface we have the sulci and the gyri. The different orbital parts are olfactory sulcus, orbital sulcus, gyrus rectus, anterior gyrus, posterior gyrus, medial and the lateral gyrus. These all are elaborated in this diagram. Then the insula, it is present within the lateral sulcus between the temporal and the frontal lobe. The functions are emotion and body homeostasis, that is perception, motor control, self-awareness, cognitive functioning, memory and reasoning, all are under the control of insula. It is the hidden cortex. Then the microscopic structure of the cerebral cortex includes 6 layers, or the structures with the different cells are arranged in 6 layers or laminae. These are from outside to inside. That is, the outermost layer is the molecular or plexiform layer. Then we have external granular layer. Inside that we have external pyramidal layer, then internal granular layer, internal pyramidal layer, and the innermost is multiform or pleomorphic layer. So these are the cells and all the 6 layers of the cerebral cortex. This is the histological image of the cerebral cortex. Then here we have the pyramidal cell, which are the large apical dendrite and basal dendrites. The axon projects downwards into the subcortical white matter, which may have collaterals. Pyramidal cell is the primary output neuron in the cerebral cortex. So this is the pyramidal cell. As the name indicates, it is triangular in structure and it has one apical dendrite and an axon. Then come to the Brodmann's areas. These areas were well defined and numbered by Corbinian and Brodmann. The area are based on the cortical cytoarchitectonic organization of neuron. For example, area 312 or 123, it is the primary somatosensory area. Area 4 is the motor area. Area 41 and 42, these are the auditory areas, and 44 and 45, these are the Broca's areas, that is motor speech areas. So these different areas are concerned with different functions, either sensory or motor. So he is the Brodmann, the Corbinian Brodmann, who divided the cortex into 52 areas. These areas are either motor or sensory. So we include the auditory areas. For example, the primary auditory area is the area number 41, and the association auditory area is area number 42, and the higher auditory areas, these are area number 22. So these are the different areas with their functions. Now the different areas in the frontal lobe are: frontal lobe lies in front of the central sulcus and above the posterior ramus of the lateral sulcus. So 1/3 of the cortical surface, and on the basis of the function it is divided into precentral cortex and prefrontal cortex. So frontal lobe, it has premotor cortex, which is located in the region immediately anterior to the precentral gyrus, that is area number 6. It is clearly demarcated with this image. Then in front of 6 area number we have prefrontal cortex. It is an extensive region of the frontal lobe anterior to the premotor area. Then below the area number 6 we have Broca's area, which is located in the inferior frontal gyrus of the dominant hemisphere, and the Brodmann area is 44 and 45. Then in just behind to the area number 6 we have area number 4, that is the primary motor area. It is the area number 4. Then in front of the area number 4 we have frontal eye field. It is located in the middle frontal gyrus immediately in front of the motor cortex, and the Brodmann area is area number 8. So primary motor area is area number 4. It's located in just in front of the central sulcus. it has the presence of giant pyramidal cells, and these are known as Bett's cells in the ganglionic layer and in the granular layer. This area is the center for volition, that is, it is concerned with initiation of voluntary movement of the contralateral half of the body. Then we have premotor area. It lies anterior to the primary motor area, and it includes Brodmann's area number 6, and it is responsible for controlling the skilled movements of our body. Then the lesions lead to loss of skilled movement, and the lesion of area number 6 and 4 lead to hemiplegia, that is, half side of the body is paralyzed. So these are the different areas in the frontal lobe. There is primary motor area, premotor area, frontal eye field, and prefrontal areas, as well as motor speech area of the Broca's. Frontal eye field lies anterior to area number 6 and is concerned with the control of eye movements. Lesions of this area will lead to loss of turning of the eye towards the affected side. Then the motor speech area is area number 44 and 45. It is the Broca's area. It is responsible for the production of voice and articulation of speech, activation of vocal cords, etc. And the lesion of this area will lead to aphasia, that is, inability to speak. Then we have supplementary motor area in continuation with the area number 6 on the medial side. When this 6 area continues on the medial side of the cerebral hemisphere, it is known as supplementary motor area, and it controls the complex movements. It elicits an urge to move. Lesion of this area will lead to akinesia, that is, loss of movement. Then prefrontal cortex, it is responsible for cognition, recognition. This area is remodeled during the adolescent until the age of 25 and is very important for well-being. It coordinates the brain and the body and the interpersonal world as a whole. So it is the center for planned actions. Here the functions of the frontal lobe are learned with the help of this mnemonic, that is PREMG. PREMG means P for personality, R for reasoning, E for emotions, M for memory, J for judgment, I for intelligence. So all these mnemonic lies in the frontal lobe. These are the functions of the frontal lobe. So if there is injury to the frontal lobe, it will lead to frontal lobe syndrome, which leads to flight of ideas, emotional instability, loss of moral and social sense, and disturbances in orientation, slight tremor. So these are injury to the frontal lobe. So the example of the injury to the frontal lobe is this, that is, there was a person known as Phineas Gage, and he was a railroad worker in the 19th century, and one of his job was to set off the explosive charges in large rock in order to break them into smaller pieces. On one of these instances, the detonation occurred on his expectations and lead to result in the 42-inch long and 1.25-inch wide metal rod was blown right in his skull and out to the top, and the rod entered his skull below his left cheek and exited after passing through the anterior frontal lobe of his brain, and this was the damage to the frontal lobe. Then we have the parietal lobe or the cortical areas. In the parietal lobe we have primary somatosensory cortex, which is area number 312. It is responsible for processing the tactile and proprioceptive information. And somatosensory association, it is assist with the integration and interpretation of sensation relative to body position and orientation of the space, and it may assist with visuomotor coordination. Then primary gustatory cortex, it is also the primary site involved with the interpretation of sensation of taste. So area number 43 is the area gustatory area responsible for the sensations of the taste. So these are the areas in the parietal lobe. Then we have Wernicke's area, that is area number 40. It is the sensory speech area, and loss of this will lead to sensory aphasia, that is, person does not understand what the other person is speaking. Then the parietal lobe syndrome, it is also known as Balint syndrome or bilateral posterior parietal lesions. In this there is inability to perceive the visual field as a whole, and there is difficulty in fixating of the eyes. There is inability to move the hand to a specific object by using vision. Then next is the occipital lobe. In the occipital lobe we have two areas, that is area number 17, which is the primary visual area. It is the primary visual area for the brain, for is responsible for the sight recognition of the size, color, light, motions and dimensions. And just near to it we have the visual association area, area number 18 and 19, which interprets the information acquired through the primary visual cortex. So this is the visual agnosia, which in this the person cannot recognize the shape and there is difficulty in transferring the visual information into words. Then the next lobe is the temporal lobe. It is the primary auditory area and is responsible for hearing. It is located in the superior surface of the superior temporal gyrus. So superior temporal gyrus has been highlighted with this red arrow, and here lies the 41 and 42 areas. Now just in front of this area 41 and 42 we have auditory association area, which is known as the Wernicke's area, area number 22. These are the different areas on the superolateral surface of the cerebral hemisphere. You just go through it and their functions. Then auditory agnosia, there is inability to identify the spoken words but do not other stimuli, also referred to as pure word deafness. So does not affect the reading comprehension, but there is inability to identify the spoken words. Then we have white fibers in the cerebrum. These are the association fibers, commissural fibers or projection fibers. Association fibers connect the different cortical areas of the same cerebral hemisphere. So association connects the different areas in the same. Commissural fibers connect the wide areas of the cerebral cortex of both cerebral across the midline. And projection fibers, they connect the cerebral cortex with subcortical gray matter of basal ganglia, thalamus, brainstem and the spinal cord. So these are the white matter of the cerebrum, in which we have the association fibers. Association fibers, these are of two types, short and the long. Short are entirely in the intracortical, and the long they are present in the bundles and they are longer than the short. And the example is uncinate fasciculus, cingulum, superior longitudinal fasciculus, as we have depicted in this image. Then commissural fibers, these are across the midline and they are linking the corresponding areas in the two cerebral hemisphere. The largest is the corpus callosum. Other than this, we have the anterior commissure, posterior commissure, habenula commissure of the fornix. So this is the commissural fibers which join the cortex of the two cerebral hemisphere. Most of them are gathered together as corpus callosum. Other one is that is the one number is the anterior commissure, number 2 is the posterior commissure, number 3 is the habenula commissure. So these are different commissures. Then we have projection fibers, the fibers which connect the cerebral cortex with the lower levels of the brain and the spinal cord, and contents of the corticofugal and the corticopetal fibers. Corticofugal means those fibers which are coming from the cortex towards the lower part of the nervous system, like spinal cord and the brainstem. And corticopetal means the fibers which are coming from the spinal cord and the brainstem towards the cerebral cortex. So this is the mapping of the sensory and the motor areas to the body. It is denoting the how the limbs, the face and the different body parts are represented in our cerebral hemisphere and what area they are covering. So sensory homunculus is a pictorial representation of the primary somatosensory cortex. Somatotropy is corresponding of an area of the body to a specific point in the origin, that in the brain. Wilder Penfield was a researcher and surgeon who created maps of the somatosensory cortex. So this is the sensory and the motor homunculi. The larger area means there is larger representation of these areas in the cerebral cortex. So come to the applied. So first is the CT scan of the brain. This is the CT scan which is showing the tumor in the right cerebral hemisphere. Then the cerebral palsy. There is damage to the cerebrum before or during within the 5 years of the birth can cause cerebral palsy. The manifestations like malfunction of the motor cortex, motor centers, there is postural and balance difficulties. Then this is ataxic cerebral palsy. In this, there is poor balance and lack of coordination in the limbs. There is wide based gait. There is depth perception usually affected. There is tendency to fall and stumble, and there is inability to walk in the straight line. It is least common. It is only occurring in the 5 to 10% of cases. And this is the Alzheimer's disease, in which there is short-term memory loss in the person, and this starts in the temporal lobe and then proceeds to other lobes. And this is the differences between the healthy brain and the severe Alzheimer's brain. Then this is the dementia. There is memory loss, and this is again the causes which are affecting the dementia. And there are the symptoms of the dementia also. There is poor judgment, misplacing the things, personality changes, difficulty in organization, hallucinations are there. So these are the dementia symptoms. Then the questions related to this topic which can be asked in your exams, like short note on the cerebral palsy, and what is the frontal lobe syndrome. So you have to mention about the signs and symptoms which are because of injury to the frontal lobe. Then write in detail about the gyri and the sulci of the cerebrum. So you have to mention all the gyri and the sulci which we have discussed in the previous slides. And this is the exercise for your file. You have to draw this diagram, you have to color these diagrams different areas, and you have to also label all these areas which are unlabeled in your image. So this is your file work. So this completes our topic, the cerebrum. Thank you.